which one is it? This one? Just gonna pull it to the desktop. And then I will open it up.
Discussion between you and Senate. I don't want to dwell on it.
So then, all we have to do is, this will be over, so if you just shrink this down, it'll be right there, ready to go. This whole thing, scoreboard and the, so if you just hit the minus button. It'll take you right to yours.
And then I want to put those two
All right,
lists
let me get your
together.
flashlight out of there. There you go. I'll take that. Thank you so much.
I think that was it for about 10 minutes of talk.
Get my stuff out of your space.
That's right, I just need this right
Hopefully everything's all right.
It's all the space you need.
Okay.
What's the actual it's been looking good for 2 years, so let's only make it come back a year.
That's really good.
More time in the hospital center. Not just working, a couple of surgeries.
Oh, sure, sure. Yeah. That looked quite all right.
2016.
No.
It's fine, Nelson. Everything seems to be really easy.
Good evening. I call this Iowa City Community School Board meeting on Tuesday, August 14th, 2018 to order. My name is Janet Godwin, and I want to thank those in the audience, those watching on television, and those following on Twitter for joining us tonight. I'll start by introducing those at the table with me. At my right, Superintendent Steve Murley, Directors Phil Hemingway, J.P. Clausen, Sean Ostone, Paul Ressler, and Kim Colvin, Recording Secretary. The public is reminded that if they wish to speak, they need to complete a speaker form found at the table in the lobby and turn it in. During community comment, persons may speak to the board about topics relevant to the district. All community comment directed at non-agenda items and agenda items shall take place at the beginning of the meeting during the community comment section of the agenda. I have a couple things I'd like to say before we move into the agenda tonight. First, we're broadcasting on YouTube tonight. It's our first YouTube broadcast. We're still on channel 21 through September 15th. But we're going to be transitioning over to YouTube solely after the 15th. You can find the link to view meetings via the YouTube channel on our district's homepage, as well as the school board section of our website. We've made announcements. We've had some media about moving to YouTube, so we're actually pretty excited about this. We're moving into new channel of disseminating our board meetings. I also want to note that today we've had interest and some concern from community members that the item around the ag curriculum is actually going to be up for potential discussion and maybe even not moving forward with the ag curriculum. I just want to clarify for the community that tonight we're talking about how to implement that ag curriculum. There's no discussion about changing the vote. We agreed that we were going to be moving forward with that as a board. We voted on it, and we are now moving forward with implementation. We had a number of emails today with people concerned that we were going to go back from that decision, and that's not the case, and that's not the intent of the agenda tonight. Finally, I just want to note about community comment. We've got a 4-minute time limit. I would respectfully ask speakers to stay within their time limit, and if we surpass it, I will very nicely interrupt you at 4 minutes. So with that, we will move into the agenda for the evening, and we'll start with our ICEA update, Ready Shut. Thank you.
President Godwin, Superintendent Murley, directors, as we are here right on the eve, we've been joking a little bit, it's right on the eve of starting, I'd just like to do a couple of thank yous. Craig and Les and all of the people that work here down in their departments, their teams, their offices. I am down here enough to know how hard they work all summer, so please pass along my thanks for everything that goes on outside of the traditional school year for teachers. Also tomorrow, of course, we have a fantastic. Oh, I should say too, Dwayne and your crew are magicians. I mean, they really are. The men and women who work with you, fantastic. I know they probably don't want us to come back because the buildings look so good right now, but we're coming back, and we'll be very gentle. So, thank you. Tomorrow we'll, welcome a little over 100 new teachers to the district. Some of them in their very first year of teaching. It's really exciting. I know my colleagues have been working hard all summer on various projects, but I always say if you can come up to our breakfast that we host, it's one of the most amazing things you're going to see. You have people who are just starting out in this wonderful career. So I know that Matt and Jane and Chase and Amy and Diana have worked really hard to put together a great program. We're happy and excited to be a part of that. And one of the things that I'll talk about tomorrow that I want to emphasize is that the great thing about being in this district is that it really is a partnership that we have. So and that really starts at the top. So President Godwin, Superintendent Murley, thank you on behalf of ICEA for your willingness to work with us and to collaborate. It really helps all of us focus on what's most important, and that's helping students really grow and learn. So we appreciate that, and we are ready to start off with a great year. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Brady. Next into community comment. First up, we have Betsy Miller, followed by Mary McCann.
Hello, I'm Betsy Miller, and I'm representing the Hoover PTA. And I just want to say, I think I'm technically a YouTuber, and my kids are going to be super excited. Like, I'm super cool right now. So I'm just here to, remind everyone how critical the boundaries are, especially for Hoover, because we're losing our school, and lots of kids don't know where they're going in a year. So I was just reading through the mission statement, the district mission statement, which I can't believe it's not in this room, but I was reading through it, and one of the things that struck me, there's a list of things, and one of the things that struck me was the risk-taking, how risk-taking is important in order. So my kids and their friends are like, I don't know where we're going, so I feel like that's going to inhibitate, whatever. It's going to have this cause of they have this fear, and they're not going to be able to take a lot of risks this year. It's going to be in the back of their mind. What are we going to do? Where are we going? I just have this feeling until we know where they're going, it's going to affect their education. And I have teachers asking already, because we have planning committees for Lemmy and Mann, and teachers want their students to be able to have a walkthrough before the end of the year. So that's my only request, is if we can somehow move this along. And sister schools, I know that's being discussed, and so there's a lot on your agenda and your plate. So I appreciate all of you, and thank you for the time. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Betsy. Mary, followed by Kevin Kinney.
How to work these things, but you can hear me. I can hear the echo. I'm Mary McCann from the Unitarian Universalist Society Racial Justice Circle. The last time I was here, I was really anxious about the canceled social justice class, but I listened and knew that your plans were extensive and that there was a real commitment to make some changes. And so I was pleased, but I'm not the kind of person who does very well with complaining about something and not doing something to answer any of the questions that I'm asking. So there were a number of us that were banging around all kinds of options and possibilities. And I got together with the African American Museum of Iowa, and I said, can you build us a program? Can you do something that can address it from where you are? And they said, oh, sure. But it took a lot of work. And in the booklet that I gave you, mine's a little bit different than yours, but similar. You can see that they put together core curriculum requirements in social studies and aligned it with what they could offer that could fulfill those requirements. It's very specific and very clear and wonderful. They had 3 pages of that, and then I went to the website that they have, and although we are all internet people, I do find at times that when somebody says, do check that link, that if I don't have the information in front of me, kind of is a little crazy making. And so I went through their website, and there were a number of things that you probably already know about because I know that you do interact with the museum. But, you know, the traveling trunks, the traveling exhibits, field trips, youth programs, a number of things. But one that really called out to me and really reminded me of what I was like as a child were the past exhibits that they have on their website. This is all about Iowa. This is things that have taken place in Iowa that can give children a powerful sense of history. I grew up on the East Coast, and my elementary school was right across the street, a tiny street, from the Delaware River. A mile and a half up the road was Washington's Crossing. And so we walked history, we lived history. And for me, came from a military family, and so we had moved around a lot. And for me, it was a beginning, and led me to my studies at school and on and on. But I wanted to give that to my grandchildren. But I don't know Iowa. I've been here for years, and I didn't know these things. And I think that if you can offer this to the kids to let them know in real time what's happened here in Iowa, they will build a value, and they won't always be running away. I'm a runner. I think maybe the military family thing turned me into a gypsy. But, and I do think kids should travel, but it is lovely when they come back home again. And so I think this could be part of that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Mary. This is amazing. Thank you so much for bringing this forward. Appreciate it. Next up, we've got Kevin, followed by Mike Lehman.
Good evening. It's great to be here. I just came tonight to thank you. I wanted to thank the Iowa City Community Schools for allowing me to participate on the steering committee for the FFA program. FFA is a program that I had worked on trying to get the FFA program at the Clear Creek Amana schools for approximately 13 years. And I'm here to report that Clear Creek is starting an FFA program, and I'm so happy that the Iowa City School District is starting an FFA program. FFA provides a great learning opportunity for the students of the Iowa City Community Schools and strengthens the relationship with Iowans and agriculture. As the ranking member of the Ag Committee in the State Senate, Iowa's economy depends heavily on agriculture. 33%, or $112 billion of Iowa's total economic output come from agriculture. Iowa Ag supports 418,000 jobs in Iowa in 2012. That is up from 332,000 in 2007 and is still growing. Or 1 in 5 Iowans go to work because of agriculture. To me, this is one of the biggest reasons that I have supported FFA, and it's, I think, a very good program, and I appreciate you guys taking the time and looking at it and allowing me to participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate.
Hopefully we can get something done in the legislature for you this year.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Lehman?
Good evening. Mike Lehman, I just wanted to expand a little bit on some of the comments I had made in your earlier meeting when you voted to approve this project for the VOAG. I grew up on a farm. I went to Regina Parochial School. We didn't have VOAG. I went to Iowa State. Kirkwood wasn't around at that time. I took an ag engineering course. They taught me how to weld and stuff. They must have graded on improvement, even though I burned a lot of holes in my pants and stuff like that. But I just want to say that I think you're going to have the mainstream kids that have an agricultural background. You'll hold their interest. I would encourage you to make this as broad-based in your 3-year program to expose the kids that have a background. I think they need to realize, like I'd spoken before, there are opportunities of employment down the road that they may not even consider agriculture being a part of. You know, the biology with plant development, they might be the next Norman Borlaug, breakthrough in yields, animal traits with genetics, could be a medical breakthrough on viruses or you know, some type of disease. They need could be engineering, design of farm equipment, you know, buildings, storage, transportation, also computers with auto steer, driverless farm equipment now, data collecting for harvesting and planting. I think the students need to know that their skills and interests have many applications and outlets and could concern agriculture. So I think appreciate your help in trying to help these kids think outside the box, and I think it'll benefit a lot more than you think it does. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. That's it for community comment this evening. We'll move into our agenda with the agenda approval.
Yeah, I'd like to move item 3 and H presentations to the top of the list, because it'll be a short presentation, and for the people that have come to see that discussion, move it up for them.
Yep, very, very reasonable. Is there a motion to approve the agenda with that one sequence change?
So moved.
Second.
Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you, Kim. Next up is our consent agenda. I would like to ask to pull item 10. Any other items directors would like to pull?
Yes, I'd like to pull 5, 15, and 16 through 20 as one item.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 10, 5, 15, and 16 through 20?
So moved.
Second?
Ready to vote?
Online voting is open. Getting anything?
There it is.
All votes have been cast and the motion carries with directors Ressler, Godwin, Clausen, and Eystone voting yea, and Director Hemingway voting nay.
Before we move into the pulled items, Phil, do you have a report on the bills?
Yes, we went this 2-week period. We had $9,400,000 worth of disbursements, $3.1 million out of the capital fund, quite a bit of spending by staff on clothing and things like reimbursements on clothing and things like that. And when I looked at them all, and it's interesting. We'll have some staff members, and maybe they should get some recognition that their expenditures for the clothing allowance is much more economical than others. Maybe there should be some type of a recognition of those that, because it's all coming out of the general fund. So I looked at that and looked at the work that we had done on our garbage truck up in Cedar Rapids, and we put a lot of money into it, and some of it, it's the labor's at $150 or $175 an hour. And with our full-time mechanic, I'd like to see a lot more of that done here, especially when we're spending $40 to have a 53-cent bulb replaced. So, but other than that, everything was inappropriate.
Thank you.
Was appropriate.
Okay, so item 5.
Yes, item 5, I am going to abstain from that vote because it has to do with the salary of my brother-in-law.
Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve item number 5, personnel agenda.
Second.
Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with Directors Ressler, Godwin, Clausen, and Eystone voting yea and Hemingway abstaining.
Thank you. Next item was item 10, and I had pulled this item around the Enterprise Resource Planning tool. I'll say from my experience sitting through the negotiations with our groups this spring, watching Leslie and Lindsay do a lot of manual data collection and spreadsheet jockeying, that I can say that this district needs an ERP, and I fully, completely support this initiative. I also want to note, having spent 2.5 years of my life implementing an ERP system at my company, this is not to be taken lightly. There are a lot of energy and priority and focus that needs to go into this to do this successfully, given especially the time frame that we've outlined. I did spend some time talking with both Steve and Craig, understanding the process, how we're going to staff it, how we're going to manage it, how we're going to manage the change throughout the process, and I'm satisfied that we have the right view of how to implement an ERP, but I also just want to say for the record that this is going to consume admin's time in a significant way this coming year, and we need to be careful as we are bringing forward other ideas and priorities and initiatives that to stay the focus and get through this implementation, we need to let this team stay focused and maintain a priority one to get this done. So that was noted in the material from Craig. I just want to reiterate that this is a very big, heavy lift, and as a board, we need to be aware of that and prioritize our work for the administrative team properly while this is going on. So I just wanted to make those comments. I fully support this initiative, and I'm really comfortable with the way we're approaching it.
And this is coming out of the Pebble budget, and we're citing Senasi's report from 6 years ago, and we used to, I don't know, for some of the new members, there used to be Senasi updates. I guess it's been a while since we've gone back to that. And I see that it's supposed to, as Craig has used the project sponsor, 10% contact time for working on this project. So this is an increase in your salaries for the work with this. Is that how I'm interpreting this correctly?
What I put in the our recommendation to you, I think those numbers changed from the first iteration to the second, but there's roughly about 20% of my time during the year that's going to be dedicated to this process. Our project manager, Lindsay, that we've identified in HR, roughly 50% of her time. And then for like Leslie and the other project heads like Kara for in payroll and so forth, it's going to be probably about 30% of their time involved in doing this kind of a lift. Now, we haven't talked about any additional compensation for anyone, although I wouldn't think that would be out of the realm of possibility given the fact that there's going to be lots and lots of extra time invested by our staff. And that just hasn't come to the surface yet. So, but there is a need for you to recognize that this is going to be added to their already full plate.
Right.
Okay. And so we just need to understand that there's going to be some extra time involved on a lot of people's part to get this up and running.
And this is supposed to save us money in the long run.
I really believe that would be the case, yes. Although it's kind of hard to beat our current the rate that we're paying now for our general fund, but also you get what you pay for, and it's inadequate. And our legacy systems in HR are almost to the point where they're becoming unsupportable. And I've had a conversation with Grant Wood that helps us continue to patch them together. And it's time. It's really time that we make this transition and move ourselves into a system that allows us to partner with our student system, which is working very well for us. And since this is a sister program, I see a lot of synergies between them. And it just makes sense along the way that we'll be able to capture some efficiencies and some savings along the way. So
Now, with our flow-through, or with the flow-through money to Grant Wood, can't this be part of, why are we tipping into Pebble for this? Can't this be a legitimate Grant Wood part of what they're getting already?
Well, we pay Grant Wood out of the general fund, and I don't think that's a great idea to pay for this out of the general fund when we can pay for it out of another fund. But the flow-through money that goes to Grant Wood will come back to us, and I've already had 2 conversations with them. I met with them about a month ago, the entire computer staff up there, and they're committed to really helping us support this, even to the point where they're talking about putting on a trainer for the Cognos report writing system. They're actually working with Power School in the implementation of possibly rolling this out to other area districts. And so Iowa City may be the first, but I don't believe we'll be the last moving to the Power School general ledger and HR system. And Grant Wood is committed to support that, and our flow-through money goes for a portion of that purpose. And so hopefully we'll be able to recover some of our flow-through money in that way.
Is there a motion to approve item 10?
So moved.
Second.
Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Item 15.
Yes, on, this is the disbursement of some excess desks and things to this orphan train. I know last year, I think we did the same thing and everything that way, and I know that on, is it Gov Deals right now, we've got some chairs and things online, and the weight equipment at West High went through, and I know I made a phone call inquiry to get some more information on that and never got a return call, even though now the material is gone. So I'm concerned on some of this that are we getting working to get the most out of it? Because if you're trying to get the most dollars out of something you're selling, you better talk to people that are interested in buying. I also want to make sure that we don't lose opportunities with local nonprofits and things like that for the use of some of this equipment as well.
Well, for the record, this would be the 3rd year in a row we did it.
Oh, is it? Okay.
2 years ago, we sent a load to Haiti. Last year, we sent a load to Ghana. This year, they're requesting to get another load to Ghana. We still have many, many desks, and in addition to what we're providing them, we would willingly give up twice as many desks as they've asked for. So we have plenty in reserve. What we have found with these desks is that they're not very popular with craftsmen or the auction houses because they're not wood. They're metal legs with pressed wood like this, tops. There's not a lot of use for them. We have tried to sell a few, I think, possibly on Gov.Deals, but that takes manpower. We have one person that works that. He's also managing the warehouses. So I think this is a good disposition of equipment that goes to a really good cause. So I'm all for it, and I think that if we're not shortchanging our taxpayers at all.
Move item 15 for approval.
Second.
Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. 16 through 20.
Yes, on this one, and again, this is a West Des Moines firm. It's a preferred firm, but it was not competitively bid or that. The first one is for 51,000. Item, I seem to have misplaced 16. But we go 51,000 on the first one, we're up to 72 on the other one, 41,000 on the other, 35,000, and $113,305. And I'd prefer that we use local vendors, personally. It's hard for me to imagine there is somebody other than in West Des Moines to do this. And I have constantly stated that I do not want to see no bid contracts and this type of thing before us.
So your comments are well noted. We actually had another vendor approach us. We asked them to provide us with a price. They did, but they lacked specificity. They're out of Cedar Rapids. It was so weak that I didn't feel like I could even attach it as a legitimate response. But I think the answer to that in the future moving forward is to write a really formal RFP like we have for the architectural design services. We might get a better response. But having said that, System Works has done this now for several years for us. They do a really good job. It is required by state law that we do this service and make sure that our buildings are working. Some of the proposals are a little bit higher because we've also asked them to do testing and balancing. Sometimes we have the contractors do that. Sometimes we have the engineers do it. We've done it both ways. We feel comfortable doing it with System Works. They really know what they're doing, and we get a really good product. We haven't had any issues since we started using them.
And how long, again, remind me, Dwayne, we've used them?
We've been using them now for 3 to 4 years. Yeah. They've done quite a few, I think I've listed the other projects they've done for you in the item itself, but we've had this discussion, and I agree with Mr. Hemingway, but finding the right people sometimes is a challenge, and I just couldn't bring it to you. I felt it was that weak.
I move we approve items 16 through 20 as presented.
Okay, I'm ready to vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with Directors Ressler, Godwin, Clausen, and Eystone voting yea and Director Hemingway voting nay.
Thank you. Public hearing. JP, will you do the honors tonight?
Sure. Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed plans and specifications for the 2018 Southeast Junior High Addition project. The Board of Directors set the date for this public hearing on July 24th, 2018. Notice of public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on July 25th, 2018. The district will receive bids on this project at 2 p.m. August 16th, 2018 at the Educational Services Center located at 1725 North Dodge Street, Iowa City, Iowa, 52245. Notice to contractors was published as required by law in multiple statewide plan rooms and on the Iowa City Community School District website on July 25th, 2018. Are there any questions from the board? Are there any questions from the public? All right, I declare this public hearing closed.
Thank you. Now we move into the presentation section. We're going to start with the career and tech education, agricultural education. I think, Matt, you're up.
All right, thank you guys. You'd asked for an update on kind of where we're at with career and technical education review of programming and then also agricultural education. So I provided a memo there that kind of provides a brief timeline of what happened last spring, what's happened this summer, and into this fall, and what we project out into the 2019-20 school year as well with the start of the agricultural education program. Probably the highlights would be some of the contacts we've had with some experts here over the summer and in looking for some tools and metrics to try to evaluate CTE programs as we look this school year, as we look to either enhance existing programs or what opportunities might be there for programming that we haven't considered in the past. I think when you look, we have two great examples of enhancing a program as we've used with the ACE program at City High, where you've seen kind of that project go up on First Avenue with taking a course and being able to fit it into existing FTE that we had and give students a new opportunity to do some more construction type skills that articulates well with the regional center. So that's definitely something we want to pay attention to. And then obviously the addition of this agricultural education program. We plan to look for and select a teacher this fall and into the winter to try to get ahead of the normal posting season, to try to get some interest out there and show our commitment to it, that we can capture the best and cast the widest net possible. Some other things I think you'll see is the pathway work on there. The curriculum team has been really looking at pathways as we try to determine those opportunities when we look at college and career ready and what are those opportunities for kids to have on and off ramps into those different experiences as they look at their pathway moving forward here after K-12 education. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I don't want to read the memo to you since it's provided there, but those are a few of the highlights as I see them.
You hit on one of my questions, which is making sure that we advertise this, that we raise awareness from a student's perspective of the value, what the content's going to be, what they can expect in the experience, so that when we open up Reg in the spring or winter, that kids are ready and know and are excited about it. And so I think the instructor that you're talking about hiring and bringing on in time to lead that awareness campaign, I think is going to be really important.
Exactly. We want to try to, ideally we'd have that instructor in place by the time registration season starts. We know that happens right after the winter break. So if we have somebody talking to students, we'll already make plans to have principals and guidance counselors on board with what that course enrollment looks like and the opportunities for students to do that. But obviously we know if we have an adult in charge of that program that can sell the program, that'll be a more effective experience. It just kind of depends, obviously, on what other district responsibilities they have, where they're coming from, or if they're a new teacher, something like that. So definitely something we want to get out in front of, like you said, President Godwin, and try to do the best we can to make sure we get the most interest possible.
Yeah. Well, and the one note I might make is that with students beginning to register, I might just suggest that we have like January of 19, because that's right at the first of the year when students start registering for courses instead of the spring. So to make
it just
sure
means
people,
spring semester, Director Hemingway. We do registration in January. You're right.
Right,
yep.
Exactly. That way, and you know, with one of the speakers from Regina, I think too we have to look at have to reach out to Regina as well with this program starting, and if there would be possible interest from students from Regina taking the curriculum at City High, just a short walk down the street, that type of a thing. I think there's great opportunities with that as well, and I'm very excited to get this underway, and I echo what President Godwin suggestion about getting the staff in time, because this is new, making sure facilities are adequate and everything that way, and I had a very good discussion with an FFA spokesperson at Des Moines on Friday of last week, and as far as how you go about with clubs and multiple schools and things like that, and he had some very good recommendations, which I can share with the group and everything going forward on that when we get closer to those
Great.
things happening.
Well, I guess, normally, I don't think we promote classes too much, and so this feels like something I think we want to, get ahead of, maybe even more. I'm thinking like, obviously getting guidance counselors on board, but like, posters and the guidance officer in the hallway, really this is a brand new thing. And I think, on the face of it, I think a lot of people are just going to say, they're going to have a certain mindset about what ag is. And I think the more that we can, like the speaker said tonight, the more we can introduce the breadth and the depth of what ag is and what it means, and kind of get out ahead of that. Because I think if folks understand it and they kind of know what's out there for a career, we're going to draw in a lot more different kids than we might just saying, hey, we have an ag program, or even we have FFA. My guess would be FFA has a lot of promotional materials and things like that that sort of tell this story. And I think the more we can kind of get in front of that and get that out there, so start to generate kids asking, hey, what's this about? And I just want to, I think this is a great offering, and I want to see as many kids get involved in this as possible.
Yeah, and there's, chapters close to us that are very interested in working with us and doing some collaborative things that way. And I spoke with the secretary the newly elected secretary for FFA, the state of Iowa, at the fair as well. And she's very excited with helping to promote and bring in students. And sometimes the best advocates are when you have someone from their same age or range coming in and explaining exactly what all it is, what the opportunities are.
Great.
So.
Any further questions or comments? Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up, quarterly report. I think that's Leslie.
Yes, thank you, President Godwin. I would draw your attention just to a couple pages, as most of it's in front of you. It's the same format that you've received in prior reports. It would be page 2, the executive summary, covers kind of some of the highlights in the words. Then pages 4, 5, and 6 have been updated, or excuse me, 4 and 5 have been updated with information on a statewide level that provides some comparative that Craig has pulled off of several sources. And then finally, page 10, which gives you where we're at right now. We have not finished the audit and made the final adjustments yet, so this is a preliminary number. But what you can see is that our unspent balance is going to be a little bit lower than we had projected a little bit earlier in the year. And not significantly, but it is lower, and most of that has to do with adding staff and adding a new school, as we shared with you in the past. And also our utilities are a couple $100,000 above where they have been in the past, just because of some of the weather conditions, and we've got more space that we're heating and that type of thing, and providing lights to, even though we're trying to be as efficient with our what's getting installed. So there still is some cost there. And we've projected out for the next 5 years an unspent balance. It's not a good trend. So it's going to take a lot of work on both our part as the administrative team and your part as the board to make sure that we control this to the best of our abilities, as well as reach out to folks like Mr. Kinney and his peers in Des Moines for their support as well, to provide additional resources to public education. It's a teamwork approach there. So with that, I'll entertain any other questions you might have.
Questions, comments? I think page 10 tells the story. Green, yellow, red, orange, yellow, green. The dipping down and coming back up, and to your points, Leslie, around managing, monitoring, really careful control over our expenditures to get us back into a healthy state with our unspent balance. I mean, we're doing this intentionally. Opening schools is expensive. We've got another elementary coming online in fall of 19. So I'm sure that's all been factored in this, and so we just have to be very diligent, because we can't get stuck down in that trough of red and orange. That cannot get stuck there.
Exactly.
Anything else? I think that was very efficient. Thank you very much for your discussion. Next up, we've got Dwayne and our quarterly F&P update.
Kim instructed me correctly. There it is. So, a very short PowerPoint that might be beneficial to just share a few facts with you. I also threw in a couple pictures along the way, and if you're interested, I'll tell you what they are. The lower left is the new entryway at Longfellow Elementary. It's absolutely gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
Yes, it's really not. I mean, words don't do it justice. Neither does this picture. I mean, it's really going to be a neat school. The middle one, I think y'all recognize, is Liberty High School, the new field out there. Since that photo was taken, the lightning bolts been put on the field, and Liberty High in the end zones, and the press box has been built, and a lot of other features. So it's a pretty nice facility. The one on the right was taken this morning. I inserted it just this afternoon. It's from West High School, the new gym, and they're all set up to play volleyball over there. So, but those are just little things. This picture is from Alexander Elementary. That's the display wall in their front entrance that they use a lot. It's kind of cool. That was actually built by a district craftsman, and something we added to the building. A little history for those of you that in the audience or on the board that haven't been around that long. We started this back in February 13 when they passed the revenue purpose statement. The actual plan was developed until the year during 2013, and it was approved in December. We started construction in 14. In 15, we updated it again. We did a lot of changes, some project scope, but a lot of changes for inflation and budgets and those types of things. Obviously, in 17, we had a great support from the public and had a successful bond vote, which is what's keeping us going, and I think you'll be pleased with the results so far. We also then accelerated the plan in November and again in May. We did two attempts at that. So you'll see a little bit of that in just a minute. And we were originally scheduled to be complete in August of 24. We're now going to be complete in August of 21, 3 years ahead of schedule. Nothing wrong with that. I did this for a reason, just to kind of show you how the yearly cash outlay has changed a little bit. By the way, that's a picture of the library at Penn Elementary in the courtyard. It's a pretty nice feature. The first year, we started nearly $33.5 million worth of projects. That we started doesn't mean we completed them. It was just a start. That most of these projects are laid out over 2 years. Some even go a little longer. A couple were less, like Hoover Elementary was less, Hills was less. 2015, we went to $63.5 million. We started Liberty High School, and that's a big part of that. Then we did the third floor at City High, and then Coralville Central, of course. 16, we moved into Weber, Hoover, the new Hoover, Lucas, and Hills. The value dropped, but there was a lot of carryover that year from Liberty High School, so it may look like it went down, but it was a pretty busy summer. That, by the way, is a picture of the new entrance at Lucas Elementary. The reason I put that there is at the bottom here, you'll notice that we've also been doing safety and security. And we passed that plan back in 2013, very early, I think it was in March of 13. And at that time, it was between $6 and $6.5 million. The cost of that, we designated some Pebble funds. I can tell you pretty comfortably that we've exceeded that. We've probably pushed $8 million. By the time we finish West High in this next year, we'll be pushing $10 million that we've spent in the district on safety and security, which is radios, alarm systems, fire alarms, cameras, you name it, we've done it, and that's what this is for. So I think it's a complementary program. It's allowed us to spend facility master plan dollars on the infrastructure itself and the building, at the same time improve the technology and the security of our buildings. Elevations of Mann Elementary. If you've been down Dodge Street lately, half the street's closed. They're putting in a new bus lane. They were compacting the gravel today. I suspect by the end of the week there'll be concrete there. So that's a new bus drop-off lane that we had not only had to work with the city, but with the Iowa DOT, because that's a state highway, to get all that approved. And when we dug it up last week, we discovered that the city had a fiber optics buried there that nobody knew about that controls the traffic lights, and they're only 6 inches deep, so they had to dig them up and replace them. So we got that done. These now are the new general obligation bond projects, 2018 projects. That top half of the page, those are all in progress right now. We've got them started. There's 51 million there. And because of the accelerated part of the plan, the bottom half of the page is starting yet this fall. And tonight you approved Twain and you approved Twain and North Central. Next time we hope to bring you Southeast and Tate. So, and West High Phase 2 will be at maybe pushing into September, late September, but we'll get it started as well. So there's a lot to go yet. Why am I telling you all this? Well, before I do, let's talk about energy. Whoop. The other complementary program that we've been participating in, we've done 14 projects, is with our utility partners in Mid-American, Alliant Energy, and Lynn County REC, is that we've been receiving energy rebates to make improvements in our buildings. So when we upgrade to geothermal, or we upgrade to what we call daylight harvesting or LED lighting, things like that, that will save energy, we actually get incentives to do that. So I'm pleased to tell you that we've exceeded $1.5 million since we've started the program, and additional funds have been brought into the district because of the energy rebates we've done, or the energy things we've done, the enhancements we've made. To be eligible, you have to exceed the Iowa Energy Code by a minimum of 40% to be eligible. We've had 4 schools go past 50%. Those 4 schools, 2 of them have received their awards already, Penn and Alexander. And I was just notified last week that Liberty and Hoover will be receiving awards in September of this year for their excellence. So I'm pleased. I've been in energy for a long time, and I think that this is a really good way to make our buildings better and help get paid for it. So here's really the state of the state, and that is the pace of construction. So you just heard Director Hemingway tell you that we paid $3.1 million out of the construction fund this past month. Well, that second bullet there says we've been averaging for the last 4 years a little over $3 million per month in construction if you average it out. That's a pretty good clip. That's a small construction company. It's a whole lot more than I did when I was in business. I mean, it's a lot of work. But the next line is the one that scares me, or keeps me up maybe. From 18 to 21, with the accelerated pace, we're going to average $4.7 million per month in expenditures for the construction that's about to come. Well, the $50 million we've already started, and the 50 we're going to start before the year's over. You spread that out. You add those last 11 projects we haven't started yet that are in design or planning, and we're gonna kick that up to 4.7. But next summer, I may not have any hair left. We're going to peak out at $7.5 million in the summer of 2019. In fact, we're projecting that we may have 4 or 5 months in a row in excess of $7 million in expenditures. Mm-hmm. So somebody's going to be really busy.
Yeah, the average per month is a little misleading because obviously we're not doing a ton of construction in January, right? It's the peak construction months where you really got the volume going. And so I think that actually is, for me, the most interesting number on that page.
Yeah, it'll slow down a little bit in the winters now, maybe to 3.5, what we're doing now, but it's going to be pretty hectic. And it just tells you the volume of the projects we have, the dollar value, and how we're going to keep our staff busy in the district. So a couple of notes. 17 major renovations, new school will be completed by this fall of 18 with nearly $160 million completed by this fall. That includes the Longfellow, West High, Liberty Phase 2, and all the other projects we've already done, okay? We managed to stay on time and on budget. It's a challenge, but we do it with your help and with our contractors and our architects. We have a good design process we run through. We're pretty diligent. Our district craftsmen help us with every design. We look at every piece, and we manage to keep those budgets in line, and I'm proud of our guys for doing that. Total investment when we're done in 2021, $347 million, includes SAVE, Pebble, and general obligation bonds. That's a pretty good sized project. I think I can only think of one in Iowa that was bigger, and I was part of that one too. I threw some more pictures in. Mann Allen in the upper left, Hoover in the upper center, or not Hoover, Lincoln, that's that new retaining wall we're building out there. And I'm glad I put this one in. The upper right hand is the desk that went to Ghana. And those are students from Ghana who are standing by their desk and sent us a picture of how proud they were to get those desks. So that it's working. And those are those plastic top metal desks that I was talking about. Lower left, that's a picture of 2 turtles that survived the construction at Coralville Central. They were in their tank. I'm sorry, Craig had to do it. They were in those tanks the entire time. The contractors protected them. We covered them up, but they survived. And then in the lower right-hand corner, of course, is our famous herd of goats. And when they were at Penn, I'm happy to say we didn't lose any goats, unlike the University of Iowa. In fact, we added 1 or 2 along the way. We had a couple bursts that the students at Shimmick got to witness. So with that, I would answer any questions you might have.
I just have one comment. I'd like to say when you get done with the 337 million, whatever, you could take a break, but I don't think that's going to be true. And I think we've got our work cut out for us to figure out what comes next, and I think that's, on our radar, and there's going to be plenty more. But that is a lot, and we'll be happy to dump some more on your plate soon.
I'm going to retire. I'll help you plan it. I'll help you get it started. But I promised my wife I'd build her a new house, so I need to do that.
Like, I'm done.
In Johnson County?
No, it's actually in Jackson County, south of Dubuque, about 20 miles in Bellevue, Iowa. Bought a lot overlooks the Mississippi, so I didn't throw that picture in.
We had a discussion tonight, Dwayne, about a new curriculum that's going to start in the fall of 19. It's going to require some specialty. Any discussion on the opportunities that will present to the district and with this construction? I'm glad to see all the photos you have here, but there wasn't one of a career and tech classroom.
Yeah, well, not that we haven't done some, we have. But in terms of Voc Ag, I can relate to my previous experience in that we had an 80-acre parcel. We put up a separate building. We had a horticulture program. We had a small farming operation. I visualize something like that long-term for your Voc Ag. I'd love to see it. And I think it needs to be part of your next 10-year facility master plan. And Craig and I were talking today about some parcels that might work close to Liberty High School that are available that might work out, may not, maybe somewhere else, could be east of town. But I think you need to think about that in your long-term planning. You're just growing, but it's a program that could grow. So I would encourage you to incorporate that in your future
Right,
plan.
no, and it's going to be more rapid than 10 years because we're going to have students in that curriculum fall of 19.
Yeah, well, I think the next 10-year plan is the next 10-year cycle. It doesn't mean that you have to wait till it's over with. You can put that up at the front of the line.
I just have a couple comments. I also got to take a look at Longfellow with Superintendent Murley, and actually Kim was there, and it was very impressive. So I'm excited to get that school opened so those residents over there can see that school, and also for Mann families to take a look at that and kind of visualize it. Probably won't be the exact same, but they'll get a good idea what they're going to have the following year. It was beautifully done. I showed my wife a couple pictures, and she was like, "Oh, that was that entryway and that staircase." She was like, "Oh, that was great. They saved the old staircase and makes it look great." I'm like, "No, that's new." So the way you guys worked in the new and the old together was great. I also wanted to make a comment that you discussed about safety and security, the upgrades. When Dwayne came and presented to the safety committee about all the upgrades that had been taking place in the district, and it was quite eye-opening to not only the staff that was there, but as well as the community members. So you'll see when that committee comes forward, the recommendation to make sure that we are discussing those things publicly on what has been done. And finally, just an interesting side note, as we've mentioned, this 10-year plan, this will be the first year that all elementary students will have air conditioning, with the two groups going to New Hoover. And our Bass director at Lemmy must have just copied and pasted his email, but he had talked about if there were early outs for heat. And so I made sure to write him back and say, it won't happen for you most likely this year unless the air conditionings are broken somewhere. But just side note there. And finally, my oldest daughter, starting high school freshman at City High, made a comment the other day to me that she was excited that the plan was accelerated because this will be the first school that she will be in that got a renovation from her kindergarten year all the way up. She's always been the one leaving and then the renovation starting. So it's just a separate note there.
Well, she may take that back once she goes through a construction site. It's not a lot of fun, but we try and minimize the disruption.
Other comments, questions? I want to say well done to past boards who had the vision around the FMP, the administrative team who had the ability to execute on those plans. $347 million when we're all done is amazingly impressive. It's making a difference every single day in our students and our teachers and all of the educators who walk through those buildings every day, community members. It is an amazing job that you've done, and it's an amazing thing for our community and our school district. So well done. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I'll accept that on behalf of my entire department and all the folks out there and the community members as well that made it happen, because it's a team effort.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. It's very impressive. Thank you.
Janet, just one more comment before we move forward. So with the opening of Longfellow and the time capsule that was unearthed, this,
Read it.
yeah, the bond for that vote was like $200,000 for 3 schools, right? 250, right? And I went
You
back.
can vote. Women, you can vote.
Yes. And I went back even further to research the schools that those 3 schools were replacing. So it was the 4 ward schools in Iowa City. And on September 3rd, 1855, the city of Iowa City voted to pass a bond to build 3 of those ward schools for $20,000. The vote was 115 for and 46 against. The cost of those schools actually ended up being $8,125 each. There was 3 of those. They added the 4th, and then the bond vote for Longfellow, which I just think is interesting because now we voted last year for Longfellow and Mann at a little bit higher cost.
So that shows you our community has a strong history of supporting growth in our school district and passing bonds to pay for that. So it's good. We've got a long, strong tradition.
It was a lot of fun opening that up and looking at some of those documents. And the PTA back then reminded the women that they had the right to vote. So, and how we would put in our children in unsanitary and unsafe conditions if they didn't pass it. I mean, it was pretty.
We don't want any more victims. There was some victim language in there, wasn't there?
There was. And I would note that they were very specific that they kept the women's votes tabulated separately, which I thought was very interesting.
I don't want to even go there.
The safe vote.
The numbers had the women came out stronger than the men to vote, by the way. It was in the article, too.
Thanks, Dwayne. Appreciate it. Really good stuff. Okay, moving on to our action items. We've got the superintendent contract up for vote tonight. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions?
Yeah, well, I strongly feel that this should be tabled until all board members are present to vote. And I know the optic looks bad with Steve and I looking down here and no one around us. It's not because I didn't shower or use deodorant before I came here tonight, but I think that this is an important vote that requires the full board to weigh in and request that we reconsider and push this off until we have a time to have a full board vote on it.
The 2 board members who are not present tonight are very aware that the vote is occurring and they support the vote proceeding tonight. So I don't think that there's a need to postpone the vote. All board members have had a chance to weigh in on this contract, and so I'm very comfortable proceeding.
Well, some questions had been arisen this afternoon on the total compensation of this package. It's $320,000 and $320,368. And talking with the public, they're asking me why would we extend the contract with growing achievement gap in the district, with us losing our ranking because of that increasing gap, declining state assessment scores, OCR complaint investigation regarding overrepresentation of minors in special education, our district owning, being the only district in the state to be turned in by an AEA to the State Department of Ed. We have a DOJ complaint outstanding on our playgrounds. I have real concerns with extending this for the length of period which is appearing before us tonight, and the fact that the superintendent has applied for jobs elsewhere, if that's a consideration. And it's been the district that we've had.
Are asking, there are significant challenges that our district faces and has faced for a while. And I think we, as a board, are taking on some very significant change to make sure we have Steve under contract. And I think that as we move forward, I think this is the point where we say to you, all right, now it's time to put all the effort into some of these changes we're looking at and really make significant improvements with some of the things that Director Hemingway read off, because there are a lot of gaps that we need to address. You know, there's plenty of things that need fixing, and we're really aggressive board. We've been very ambitious in the things we want to get done, and I don't think we can do that with not having commitment to you and from you to make them happen. So that's why I'm in favor of approving the contract tonight.
Just to echo some of Sean's points, I agree with what you said, and I also think it's, you can point out some flaws, and you can also look to a lot of successes in our district that have happened in the last year specifically. And for that reason, I will be voting in favor of the contract today.
Any further comments? Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with Directors Ressler, Godwin, Clausen, and Eystone voting yea and Director Hemingway voting nay.
Thank you, Kim. Next up, Director Liaison Report. Any comments folks would like to make about their engagement?
Yeah, I learned that there is a Johnson County Ag Committee. I went to their meeting. They're a very interesting group of realtors, business people, and farmers. Not everyone on it is a farmer or active in ag, but they're very interested in agriculture. And they had a tour which went up to Kirkwood and looked at the Kirkwood facilities and the expansion that Kirkwood's doing in their ag department, and explained all the different courses they have up there, and it was very informational. And then went to a koi farm in Swisher, which I don't know if anyone ever has a chance to go there, but it was extremely just amazing what they're doing. I used to think dairy farmers had the hardest life, but these koi people were harvesting eggs at 10 o'clock at night and getting to UPS and everything like that, and it was quite an operation. But that, and then again, I had mentioned but going to the state fair and being impressed with the level of students that are involved in FFA and how their ability to look you in the eye and talk to you with such poise and possessing the soft skills that employers are demanding of kids from this new generation of technology. I was very impressed, and I'm very excited about what those students interacting with our students. So.
Just one quick comment, and I didn't add it on here, but this is more of a shout out to Adam and his team. As the teachers get prepared for their new school year this year, I had the pleasure of my wife making me go over to Mark Twain and set up her new technology suite because she didn't feel comfortable doing it. So once we got that all off the ground, I just want to say the new microphones that the teachers will have, with the new speakers in the ceiling, as well as the new whiteboards that you have with the wireless link is great. I did have to reread her email again to remind her to turn the microphone off at certain times, but she was very excited about it, and I think other teachers are as well, that the difference that's going to make in the classroom. So shout out to your team for getting that ready for this school year as well.
Great. Anything else? Thank you. Next up is agenda setting. First thing I want to talk about from agenda setting is we canceled our work session tonight because of two of our board members not present, and the material that had been put together to be presented we felt needed to be heard by everyone. There's a question on whether we want to reschedule that work session for next Tuesday. It's kind of a tricky thing because it's ice cream socials. There's a bunch of stuff going on that night. If we were to have a work session, we would have to do it later. 7:30, 8 o'clock maybe even. I just want to throw it out there to see if that's something we want to consider, or we want to push what we were originally going to do tonight to the 28th meeting.
The only, I mean, I could go either way, but I know that we have struggled in the past having very productive work sessions when we start too late at night. Usually it's because we've had a very long board meeting and then we go into it, and that wouldn't be the case. But I do wonder if we're all going to be looking at a watch and wanting to get out of Dodge and not really doing the work. So that concerns me a little bit. That being said, if everybody's wants to show up at a later time next week, I'm willing, but I'd be afraid it would be lacking.
I'd also offer, you might want to think, I'm not sure that we planned on one September 4th, which is the Tuesday after Labor Day, so that might also be another opportunity to expand the work time for you as a board, is to think about both the 28th and the 4th.
The
So
4th
I'd
is
offer
a
that.
special election, so we'd need to find a different location for the meeting, which
Correct,
we
we'd have
could
to meet
do.
somewhere else. We
Yeah,
wouldn't
that's
be able
fine.
to meet here, and so we'd held off scheduling
Yeah.
one because we knew that this room would be full. So we have done them at Southeast in the library. So there are other places that we could go to meet, but that was a date that we had not scheduled because of that special election. So that would be another opportunity for you to consider adding some work time.
The, let's see, P&G and operations, but, I mean, they were meeting the first Tuesday of the month and wasn't sure if we'd be getting started in September, and that would be the date for those.
Are we
They
at
don't
the
need
P&G on
to,
the
for
4th?
sure, if, I think the work session would be probably a higher priority, but
Yeah, I like that.
I think we potentially have multiple work sessions worth of stuff, so I would say the stuff that was tonight push to the 28th, and stuff that was on the
Yeah.
28th, maybe go to the 4th.
I think that, to me, feels like it gets us back on track, but I think next Tuesday is going to be a struggle, and probably community members are not going to be able to join. There'll be long day, getting their kids ready for school and stuff like that. So let's agree that, that would address the agenda for the work session on the 28th. Basically, we're going to take what we were going to do tonight and push it to the 28th, and what was scheduled for the 28th, we're going to push to the 4th.
4th.
Right?
And then Steve, will you update the attendance area master plan schedule that you have? Because I have sent that out to a couple people and had them reference that so they know when to come, parents and community members, so they can follow along on that discussion.
Yes, we will. As a matter of fact, Kim has it out on a shared doc right now. We just didn't want to push it out until after tonight so that we made sure that the dates were right on there. And as soon as we get in tomorrow, we can get that updated and pushed out to everybody.
And then the only concern I would have with the 4th is I just want to make sure that that would be the time, I think, that the teachers and staff would have come in if we are going off of the schedule, just to make sure that that date still works for them. Otherwise, we might have to.
Yep, we can definitely check into that before
Okay.
we get that on the schedule.
Yeah, good point, thanks, Paul. All right, so those are work sessions in terms of the August 28th board meeting. The draft that we have out there is very, very generic. Are there, I can't actually think of anything else that we would be covering on that night. We've got a healthy work session planned for after that, so.
There's the last meeting of the first part of the safety committee is Monday, the 20th. After that meeting, I'd have to double check, but the purpose after that meeting would be to come to the school board with the first recommendations before the committee reforms again and continues their work. So that would have to probably happen at one of the next two meetings, but I would need to check with Kate to see if.
Yeah, I actually suggested to Kate that I asked her if she could hold off until as late as September 25th, recognizing that we might have some challenges here in the next couple weeks with our work sessions. And we also have an equity committee, equity advisory committee report to get to you. And so she said she thought that could wait till September 25th, potentially giving us a couple of meetings to get back on track with our other work session items. So you might want to check with her and see if that still works as a potential report out date for the safety committee.
It feels kind of late
Yeah.
to me, and so we'd have such a light agenda for the next meeting if we want to try, if she thinks she would be ready, the safety committee. I mean, I know there's a lot of community interest in what that group is doing. I've heard a lot of good things about the work there.
I'll bring it up to the committee on the 20th.
Would you see, and then we can adjust
Sure.
when we do agenda setting.
bet.
It's such a light agenda, if we can squeeze it in, I think it would be a
We
good
certainly
thing.
can.
Okay. right, so you'll let us know, Paul. Thank you. Anything else for the 28th agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.